Well, I was just thinking about something as I got into my truck this morning, like right before I turned this camera on. And I was like, you know, I see this thing building up over there. You know, the war drum's beating over in Ukraine, thanks to the U.S. once again meddling over there, setting up a fake civil unrest scenario just like we did in Egypt, Libya, tried to do in Syria. Again, my opinion was that we haven't gone anywhere with that. Now Egypt's overthrown what we put in power. You just saw yesterday, I think, Libya, there's now a rebel group, which is really the old people, the regular people, and then the new Libyan government, the alleged real government, which is the powers we put in to be, which were Muslim Brotherhood pals. They just allegedly shot at a North Korean oil tanker with a missile. It was on fire leaving port because they said that, you know, the official government, in other words, the Western power government, aka Muslim Brotherhood boys, said that it was an illegal deal because they loaded up with oil from the rebel group at a rebel-held port. So it's illegitimate, and they fired on the North Korean ship. Now, here's a problem with that. It doesn't matter what ship is going to your country and getting something. What matters is the person that sold it to them. You don't go and attack another country's ship because it loaded up with oil that it thought was legitimate, went to a port and actually sat there and filled up. If a ship can come to your country, sit at a port for a length of time, filling up with massive amounts of oil from your country, why didn't you stop it then? Why didn't you go send your army in and stop it from getting filled up? You let that ship get filled up, then sail out to sea in the international waters and then fire a missile at it? And it's a North Korean ship, of all places. So what I was thinking of this morning, I was like, man, did John Teeter say anything, you know, the old time traveler story? Did John Teeter say anything about the Ukraine? Like, was that mentioned in there? And I searched Google and there's a lot of chatter right now with the word John Teeter and Ukraine, and lots of people asking, hey, did John Teeter mention anything about, you know, kind of having the same thought I did. But I did not find anything from the John Teeter stuff that mentions Ukraine explicitly at all. So the answer for my question was, well, no, John Teeter did not say anything about Ukraine specifically, unless for some reason I just missed it. But I did not find anything other than other people asking it on some of the conspiracy websites mostly. So it still got me thinking, you know, about that whole story and things like that, which reminded me of what the remote viewing team from Ed Dames' group has said. Now, first of all, before anyone tries to write this off as nonsense and, oh, it's another web bot hocus pocus nonsense. Do you realize, way before, years before Fukushima happened, Ed Dames' team of remote viewers forecast that exact event so down to the detail of what happened with Fukushima and the earthquake and the nuclear thing and all that, that it was mind-blowing when it happened. When it finally came true, it was like, oh my God, this is so exactly what Ed Dames described. And even said it would be Japan, you know, I mean, everything about it. Unbelievable. The only issue, which again, this reminds me of webbot type stuff, is that they were expecting it years before 2011, like 2 or 3 years before that. That was their time frame, if I recall, like 2007 or something like that. And it never happened at that point. But then it happened later. And the remote viewing that went on was absolutely spot on. So as a regular, rational thinking person, I have to say, yeah, I hate hearing when someone tells you this is going to come and this is the date we were seeing it, blah, blah, blah. Then the date comes and nothing happens. But then later on, what they said was coming, which was already absurd, like no way that's going to happen, and then it happens exactly as described. You have to sit back and rethink things to say, you know, I don't know how they did that. I don't know what the deal was, but damn. Yeah, I know the date was wrong, but holy crap. they got it right, the event. So I want to share with you something that Ed Dames has been talking about a really long time. And if you go look online for the video titled The Killshot, it's free actually. As a matter of fact, I have the DVD at my house. I got it a while back, but I could have swore when I got it, he was giving it away for free and all you had to do is pay for shipping or something. But it's online now, I'm pretty sure, the whole thing, where he talks about what the Killshot is. And it's basically a super massive solar flare type event that slaps down on the earth, causing a worst case type of scenario, obviously, because it's so huge in the damage it causes. But he said there would be things you would see as kind of like precursors. And one of those things would be what they thought was the space shuttle coming back into landing, basically, from outer space due to some type of meteor shower that was too severe or whatever, too dangerous for it to stay up there, so it had to come back early on its mission. Now, I know the space shuttle doesn't even go up anymore. It's done. That program is finished. But they do have something that looks almost identical to the space shuttle but smaller, that is unmanned, that they are still sending up. So as a remote viewer, you probably could not differentiate between the new thing, whatever it's called, I forget what the title of this, you know, the X something whatever shuttle, and the space shuttle. It's possible you got that wrong because they are similar, it's not the real space shuttle, etc., or it is. The other issue could have been, what if the whole reason we brought the space shuttle back down and said it's never going back up there again was simply because of the meteor things, or whatever what he foresaw in the remote viewing stuff. And they're not going to tell the world that. They're not going to, of course, they never tell us anything dangerous like that or scary. They just hush it up and, oh yeah, we're just retiring the shuttle, everything's fine. When in reality, maybe everything's not fine. So, I mean, there's a few possibilities there. But the other issue would be, he said there would be a war going on at the time. It appeared to be, I think he said it would appear to be in the Middle East. You know, no soccer there, if there's going to be a war, right? So, the thing that he said that they did, though, in the war, was you got the opposing sides, and it very well could be Americans versus whoever, you know, I don't remember about that part, whether he was specific or not on who was fighting who, but he says both sides look up. Whatever they see up in the sky makes them stop fighting pretty much instantly. We quit. We're getting back on our airplanes and ships or whatever else, and we're going home. Done. Due to something they saw in the sky during this war. So if he's talking about some kind of big solar flare or what have you, is it possible that as that thing comes down, the way it makes, because you think about this, when we have powerful solar flares and things like that, the northern lights as they call them, which are usually by the poles, north and south poles or whatever, are pretty extravagant. They're powerful. Wow, we've got a, you know, solar flare or high solar activity. Check this out. You know, it's even more powerful than normal. That kind of thing. Is it possible that we see that kind of activity across the world due to the solar flare? I don't know. Maybe. Is it possible that Courtney Brown's remote viewing team, who saw and remote viewed something slamming into the ocean causing devastation, which amounted to people on the shorelines running for their lives, and then later on people, hunter-gatherer type mentality, stirring pots under a wood fire outside full of what they called small game and roots and things like that, as far as like a stew. That does not sound like modern times now, does it? But if a solar flare and or some type of asteroid or something comes and slams into the ocean with immense force, man, my nose keeps itching, it could cause that type of devastation. So it doesn't have to be a solar flare. It could be some large body slamming into the ocean. Which would mean Ed Dame's Killshot could also be that same thing and not necessarily a solar flare. The bottom line is something happens. So if these people are fighting in a war and they look up and it's a massive comet or you know, asteroid or something, whatever, that hits Earth, or they can see, hey, that thing's coming, it's so huge, oh my God, when that thing hits, it's going to be devastating. We need to quit fighting now, get in our planes and get the hell out of here. Maybe they want to fly above it so that the shock wave doesn't quite, you know, hit them. I don't know. I'm just thinking of things here. And they could be thinking, well, that, you know, the forecast we've heard is it's going to be out in the Atlantic Ocean. The whole east coast of America is going to be in trouble. I'm not going to sit here and fight. I got to go back home and help. So they all decide, let's get the hell out of here. That's a possibility. Man, quit itching. So I just wanted to bring that back up. You know, one other thing that John Teeter said when someone was, because he kept saying, you know, the old time traveler, alleged time traveler, said, you know, he was coming there talking about things, telling us how the future is going to be, but he would always refuse to give you certain dates and times of things. Like, if, you know, he said, look, if there's a natural disaster or something, that's like an act of God, so to speak. I'm not going to discuss anything like that. You know, there's 3 guidelines I have, blah, 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 and that's one of them. So someone made a smart comment back to him, well, hey, I thought you weren't supposed to tell us anything, because he was, like, telling us something about how the future is going to be. So he's like, well, I thought you said you weren't going to tell us anything about the future. And he said, well, giving you an idea of what your future is going to be like in the next, you know, many years, versus telling you, don't be in Washington, D.C., March 15th, 2015, is a little bit of a different story. You know, it's a little difference there from what I'm doing. I'm not giving you an exact thing that's happening. So when you read that, it sounds like, oh, well, he's just giving you a what if example, March 15th, 2015. I think it was 2015, not 2014. And I thought to myself, I always thought, like, did he just throw out an Easter egg, you know, a little bonus? Did he actually just legitimately throw out when the big war is going to get ready to start, that kind of thing? And just threw it out as an example to pretend like, oh, just a little example, doesn't mean anything. I've always thought about that. And I'm pretty sure it was 2015. It was like March 3rd or March 15th, something like that, 2015. It was his example. And then you see what's happening in the Ukraine. You see how we're trying to overthrow these country leaders, Libya, Egypt, all that. Now they're re-overthrowing it. Libya, the rebel group, is not really rebels. They're the old people that want their country back. Right, so now Libya's got to deal with that. We can't really help. We got other things we got to do. We're sorry about that. We're too busy now. We're trying to overthrow Syria. That didn't work. We just pretty much put that completely on pause mode. As my young daughter says, pause, Daddy, it's pause. It's me playing hide and seek. Daddy, pause. I got to ask you something. Pause. No, you can't ask me something. I'm in my hiding spot. Now you can see where I'm hiding. So, we're on pause mode for Syria. Can't get anything done over there. This is looking horrible. We got to get going forward with this whole New World Order plan, so we got to go somewhere else. Oh, how about Ukraine? They've got oil pipelines. They've even got some gold. Sounds like we got to go over there. That was J-Step 4's opinion. So you can see where the Ukraine's heading, but Russia ain't having no part of that. And now we've got an oil tanker from North Korea on fire that was allegedly shot by Libya, the Libyan country's army or air force or whatever, which again is the Western puppet powers. So you may have North Korea now say, hey, we know you Americans had something to do with that, and you know how much we hate you anyways. You've just done that. Yeah, don't tell us it was Libya. We know it was you. It was the people you put in power. You backed them. You gave them funds. They did this to us. Because another thing that's supposed to happen, I can't remember where this source came from, but was that the North Koreans would shoot a American aircraft carrier, shoot at American aircraft carrier somehow or another. But speaking of the Ed Dames and the remote viewing thing, he said another one of the precursor events would be that North Korea fires off another nuclear bomb or whatever. Detonates one. I don't know if that means on their own soil or against someone else. It just means they're going to fire off another one. And that would be another precursor, just to let you know we're getting closer to the Killshot event. Whether that's a strictly for sure a solar flare event, or is it a comet or something out of space body coming in, hitting Earth and the ocean, causing massive devastation because of the shock wave and the tidal wave and everything else that comes in, tsunami. I don't know. But when they have these precursors, you need to be looking for them, because when it happens, you have to sit back and say, well, damn, that was a sign some bad stuff's coming. And you better be prepared to deal with those times. If you don't have your food storage together, you're going to be in trouble. If you don't have your water filters, big Berkey water filters, as well as some other water filters, you're going to be in trouble. If the power went out for a few months, then that was it. That was the worst it was. Just a few months, power went out. All running water will stop too. City water will stop. How are they going to run? Right? How's the big plants going to run and keep the pressure up on the water? It's not. So you better be scooping up water from pools, which are no longer sanitary, because you're not going to be going and buying chlorine all over the place. Stores aren't going to be open. People are going to clean them out anyways, right? So then you got to find ways to clean nasty water, and then mix in use some of that water to rehydrate your dehydrated foods. Again, your food storage, so that you can eat that. And you may be one of the people out in your backyard lighting a fire, cooking a little pot of stew, except while everyone else is cooking small game and leaves and roots, you're cooking beans and some good stuff, you know, some dehydrated chicken and whatever else. So I don't know, you know, I have no idea how this is gonna go. I'm just throwing all this out there. But you can see the war drums beating, you see things building up, you see that we're not getting our way anymore like we used to. We used to do this hook, line, and sinker. It was a plan that always worked. We could overthrow any government we wanted, when we wanted to. We got this, and now it's not working. Yet we still have our massive amount of debt. We're running out of our gold and silver, and that was all part of the plan to get these things done, so that when we have to face that music, we already have the system in place, also called the New World Order. It's not in place. We're in trouble. We're panicking, right? We, as in the powers that be, they're panicking. We got to do something. We got to keep moving forward. Yet we're being hit with roadblocks left and right. So they get desperate. Let's go to Ukraine, right? Something way off. Let's go to Ukraine. What? And then Russia says no. So, something to think about. I got to run.